In my opinion, college is the perfect place to have these sorts of uncomfortable conversations. Even the
Jewish students don't feel comfortable on college campuses.
Even the ACLU said that the Supreme Court cannot prevent speech that is likely to provide a hostile response.
Okay, so this isn't a free speech issue. It's not. Sunday Hostin's, this is a moronic take that she has on The View. Welcome back to the program, top of this second hour. Dana Loesch with you. You can listen coast to coast. You can stream the program. 347, the channel on DirecTV, YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. Here's why it's not. And I say this is a free speech purist. I think people are misunderstanding the role that government plays when they talk about First Amendment protections for speech. Academic institutions are not governments. This University of Pennsylvania is not the United States government. Harvard is not the United States government. None of these places are the U.S. government. Now, when we talk about protected speech, we're talking about speech that you're free still to make, but it's speech that you may not be excluded from when it relates to any sort of liability incurred. If it's defamation, if it's libel, if it's slander, if it's, threatening, fighting words, so to speak. I mean, there is legal precedent for this. No, this is less about free speech and more about free association. Because these students on these college campuses that are engaging in this homicidal worship, it's not a free speech issue because the university doesn't have to tolerate it. The university doesn't have, we can't, that's the coward's way out. And it's easy. It's a specious argument. They can say, we don't want to infringe upon the free speech right. No, you're not infringing on the free speech right because you're not the U.S. government. That's why I'm very particular when people use the phrase censorship. And it's why it got muddied in the discussion of censorship as it pertains to government and big tech. If it's big tech choosing to censor you by itself because they're jackwagons and they don't like your political ideology, that's one thing. But if it's big tech who, as we have seen from receipts, that were colluding with the federal government to act secretly, unbeknownst to all of us as agents of state to suppress free speech, now that is censorship. Because the big tech then at that point is acting as the middleman. They are the agent for the state. It is the state enacting its will through this third party that is still censorship. The government isn't telling these universities that these student groups can't speak. They're not telling them to let them speak. This is the personal politics of the people running these universities in play. They don't have to tolerate this. That's like having someone in your home at a Christmas party saying ridiculous stuff. You don't owe that person ground in your private property to be able to state whatever they want to. A lot of these institutions, these are the private property. That's why they can be gun-free zones and all this other goofy stuff. So no, it's like having someone at your home, like I said, that example, saying crazy stuff. They're not owed an audience on your property. They're not owed an audience with the guests in your home. You can kick them out, let them go on their way. So can these universities. Because that's their right to do so. But they hide behind this argument of, we don't want to limit anyone's free speech. They hide behind that, and they want to conflate that with being a censorship issue so you don't question it, lest you look like someone who's advocating for censorship. They're actually daring you to contradict yourself, even though it's not technically a contradiction. They're playing on the conflation and the ignorance of this conflation, and they're daring people to try to correct them so they can make the people trying to correct them look bad for even bringing it up. It's a whole psyop. That's what they're doing. But it's not a free speech issue because no one's owed an audience to be able to say this maniacal genocidal garbage. No one's owed. You're not owed that as a college student on campus. And these universities would do a hell of a lot better to remind students of this. Like, yeah, you have free speech, but we're not the government. This isn't Congress. This isn't Capitol Hill. This is a university campus. And we reserve the right of association. We reserve the right to determine whether or not we want to be associated with this sort of behavior. We reserve the right to determine whether or not we want this behavior or these chants on our campus, if we want our campus even wholly associated with it. Now, I will say this. It has been made, I think, a little bit more difficult for university leadership, not all, but some, to even say that much, because DEI is so rampant. It's wrapped up in almost every single facet of everything that regulates everything, whether it's finance or whether it's academia. I mean, they have chief diversity officers and DEI this and all of that. It's all part of critical race theory from Marxism, and this is part and parcel of it. So they've seeded this ground where even the upper echelon of university administration, even if they felt that way, they really can't say anything, because then they are betraying the DEI values that have been invested in this university. It takes people with money to tell them to go blank themselves to do anything about it, and that's why we got this one guy who's taking back his $100 million donation. UPenn. He's taking it back. He says he's appalled, and he should be. But for Hostin to say this stuff, for her argument here, it's goofy. It's dumb. She's defending the harassment of this, and she's like, does she understand the difference between harassment and rigorous debate? Like intellectually honest, good-intentioned, rigorous debate? Because that's a huge problem with society. People like Sunny Hostin don't understand the difference between the two. Chanting from the river to the sea, and I dare say that Sunny Hostin couldn't name the river nor could name the sea, chanting things like that, you're chanting genocide. It is harassment. And that's not rigorous debate. You're just chanting something stupid. That's not debate at all.